Hey, it's Scott Penfold here with you for another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. And this week, it's a pretty good one, man, as I'm going to be talking to Asking Alexandria guitar player Ben Bruce. Now, they have the new album called See What's on the Inside, which dropped last week. So we'll be talking about that and as well everything that's going on with Asking Alexandria. We'll be getting into some of the history and, just tons of stuff. We'll just talk to him, and it's a phone call, right? It's literally a phone call this week. We're picking up the phone. No Zoom this week. It's a phone call. We're going old school. But as well, in the second portion of the podcast, as usual, Johnny Rude will be joining us. Loaded Radio's Johnny Rude from Las Vegas, Nevada, as we talk about, a couple things. First off, we're going to talk about that whole thing with that high school principal who a lot of parents are trying to get removed because she's a fan of Iron Maiden. We'll be talking about that. And as well, we will go over the results for the top 13 female-fronted hard rock and metal bands of all time as voted by you. Yeah, we didn't have anything to do with this. You voted, and we're going to give them back to you now. We've tabulated thousands of votes for the top 13 female-fronted hard rock and metal bands of all time. All right, so stick around for that. But first off, like I said, we're going to be talking to this guy here. He is the guitarist and founder for the band Asking Alexandria, and they have the new album out now called See What's on the Inside. I'm talking about, of course, lead guitarist Ben Bruce. Ben, always good to have you on the podcast, man.
No, of course, likewise.
Now, getting right down to things, man, with the seventh studio album. First, right off the bat, I got to say, wow, that's quick. Another album so quickly. What happened there?
Basically, I think, obviously COVID came and shut everything down, and it just sort of allowed us to sit back and reflect on everything and realize that maybe the way we've been making records the last few years has not been the way that we would want to make records, and you don't really realize when you're in the thick of it and everything's moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So now that things had a chance to sort of slow down, we just decided as a band, you know what, let's take this time to sort of reflect and reconnect as a band, and it led us to entering the studio together and creating this record.
And during a time of COVID-19, of isolation, of course, was it difficult for you guys to be able to get together in a room to work on the album?
I wouldn't say it was difficult. I mean, over here in the States, it's been pretty lax, for lack of a better word. But what we did was we went to the middle of nowhere. We found a studio in the middle of the woods, essentially, in a small town called Franklin in Tennessee. And it was a closed session. So it's the 5 band members, the producer and engineer, and the person, the videographer documenting it, and one of our techs only, Stephen Paul. So we had a very close-knit group. We kept it separate from everyone else. It was a closed session. So we tried to stay as safe as we possibly could, and we just kind of kept ourselves to ourselves.
You'd mentioned a producer. Who did produce the album?
The producer, his name's Matt Good. He actually produced our last 2 albums, but we've known Matt forever. We took his band out on one of our first ever headline tours. In fact, it might have been our first ever headline tour. He was in a band called From First to Last. So we've known Matt for a really long time. And it was important for us when we were doing this album to make sure that we were all comfortable, and we didn't want really any strangers coming in.
Sure.
And sort of throwing us off. This whole album is about the band reconnecting and, becoming closer than we ever have been. And so we wanted to make sure everyone that was in the room with us, we were comfortable with.
And you can really hear in some of the songs that there is that tight-knit sort of feeling there. Certainly with songs like Find Myself is one. Alone Again is the one I want to talk about first. Just a great song, I think, and a great way to kick off the album. What can you tell me about that song?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely love that song. It's funny because when we did that song, obviously during the process, you don't know what's going to come out first. You don't know where songs are going to live on the record. You might have an idea, but as soon as we did that song, I was like, man,
sure,
I think this is going to be the first one we release. I just had a feeling. But basically, that song came to fruition because, like I said, this whole album, we had so much time to reflect and look back at, why did we start this band in the first place? And we wanted to recapture that feeling and that passion we had when we were kids, just playing in, James's drum room in his parents' house. And to do that, we really needed to dig deep and be like, okay, well, who were the bands, who were the artists that really inspired us and excited us as kids and got us into our instruments in the first place? And for me, as well as the other guys, obviously. But for me, Metallica is a huge reason why I fell in love with metal music in the first place and wanted to play guitar in the first place. And I just remember hearing Through the Never for the first time. That riff just blew my shoulders. I was just like, whoa.
It's a great riff.
And I vividly it's amazing. And I remember bouncing up and down on my bed as a kid. It's like, oh, I couldn't help myself. And for this one, I was like, man, I want to write a riff that makes people feel that way when they hear it for the first time. I want to write a riff that maybe they're not bouncing up and down in their bed, but they're like, whoa, that riff is awesome. And so I just made it my mission to try and write a song that had the big hook was a big guitar riff. So the tone was super important to me, the feel. I also, something that I loved about Metallica riffs was that they were accessible to people. They weren't, you could pick up a guitar as a beginner and feel accomplished and enjoy playing Metallica songs because they sounded cool. They weren't overly difficult, but they were cool enough to where you felt good playing it, which to me was such an important thing growing up, being inspired to keep playing my guitar rather than being turned off because things might have been too difficult. So yeah, it started really with that big riff and just went from there.
And the cool thing is too, when I first heard you guys were releasing it, I thought it was like a Dokken cover.
Yeah, do you know what's so funny? I think so. Danny doesn't listen to a lot of metal bands. He listens to a lot of rock bands, but not a lot of metal bands.
Right.
And there's been a few songs like "Into the Fire," which is a big single off of our self-titled, which is also a Dokken song. And I'm like, Danny, you got to be doing this on purpose. And he's like, what are you talking about? He genuinely has no idea, and I just think it's hilarious. I'm waiting for the next album to see what he comes up with.
Oh yeah, he's gonna have like Mr. Scary on the next one,
Yeah, it's like, are you serious?
He's got to be a closet Dokken fan, has to be.
He has an alias online, Danny Dokken.
Yeah. A song that I found was really felt really personal was the song "Find Myself." What can you tell me about that one?
Yeah, "Find Myself." I think that might be one of, if not the best song we've ever written. It might not be my favorite, but I think it's definitely the best song. Obviously lyrics tell a big part of the story in a song, and they make you connect and feel a certain way, but somehow I think musically we managed to make the song feel just as powerful as the lyrics through music. Like the opening guitar lick it starts, to me sounds just as dark and meaningful and beautiful and sad as the lyrics that come in. And we end it with this huge string quintet that I think is absolutely beautiful. And I just think, I don't know, there's something magic about that song, but it is super meaningful, it's super personal. And lyrically I think that was a strong contender to be the first single. It was going to be Alone Again or that one.
Right.
I think just because it's so powerful lyrically, the first words you hear from Danny's mouth are, how do I kill myself?
Right.
And it's like, whoa. But then he goes on to say, or at least the parts that have been created to please. So this many people, I think, feel that way. And it's just a beautiful song, super powerful. I love it. I can't wait to play it live.
I noticed that you were talking about strings, how both Alone Again and Find Myself have the strings in there, and it really, really fills it out, makes it sound great.
Oh yeah, and that was something that was super important to us too. Like, we turned a big corner on this record where we didn't rely on sort of computer programs to create sounds for us. It's so easy now to open a program and be like, cool, look at this library of sick sounds.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do that. Even the strings, you can just make them. But we didn't want to rely on that. We wanted it to be so real and so raw and so honest. And so that even carried through to the strings. It was so important for us to have real string players come in and perform these with a real conductor and a real composer. And I honestly think it adds such a depth and such a beautiful level and feeling to these songs compared to just we could have plugged in the same notes on the computer, but you wouldn't have had the same feel.
When it comes to, I think the whole experience of the album, I'm a big vinyl guy myself. I enjoy the experience of going out and buying an album, bringing it home. And I love how the cover of the album is very much like a vinyl album. I mean, what was the meaning of that for you?
So basically, I think where we're at now, as far as how people consume music, people spend a lot of time concentrating on singles and songs that they know are going to be playlisted, and that becomes the sole focus. For us, it very much was not the focus. The focus was the album. What's the journey we want the listener to go on? And vinyl became a super important part of that, because like you, we love purchasing vinyl and having something that we can hold in our hand and explore and learn about. And so we went to great depths to make sure that the vinyl experience was perfect for people and was what we wanted them to experience. So much so that, we even thought about when you get to the end of side A, the last song on side A is By Myself, and you've been on this roller coaster of a journey through there. The first half of the album feels very sort of almost angry, almost aggressive. You go from Alone Again to Faded Out, and it's still, the aggression sort of goes through, and you end side A on Find Myself, and you're at the lowest point of the album, the darkest hole that we've dug on this album. And you flip it over to side B, and it starts with You've Made It This Far, which is almost like the hand reaching down and pulling you out of that dark hole and taking you on the rest of the journey. So the whole vinyl aspect was just super important to us from the get-go, and so that we wanted to include it in the artwork for the record, because that's how we want people to experience the record.
Awesome, yeah, and again, I'm a big believer in that. I love the experience, like the journey, you know what I mean?
That's the point, yeah. Fall in love with an album, and not just... I feel like there's so many artists out there now that get huge because their single is just blasted on the radio all the time, or it's always at the top of playlists, and people are like, oh yeah, I love that. But really they like the song, they can force-fed the song. Very few people, I think, fall in love with albums these days. And when I was a kid, and certainly before, that was a huge thing. People fell in love with records. You would buy an album and go on journey, and that's why there are albums like Appetite for Destruction or Metallica Self-Titled. There's albums that go down in history for the album itself, not just for a hit single.
Absolutely. Going back a few years, during the time that Danny was out of the band and you had Dennis Stoff in there, how did the reunion with Danny happen after Dennis had left the band?
By coincidence, Danny, it could have been any one of us. It just so happened to be Danny that left first.
Right.
So then when Dennis joined, it was definitely hard to have someone else come in. It was a tough time, and then I think I don't really, to this day, fully understand what happened with Dennis. He kind of just stopped responding to us and disappeared right before a tour. And we were like, oh, okay, well, that sucks. That's weird. Not sure what to do that now.
Right.
And I was in LA filming a movie at the time, and I went back to the director's house, and Danny happened to be there, and I was like, this is going to be awkward. But instead of it being awkward, it just felt super normal and super comfortable, and we hung out, had some drinks, had some pizza, and just started reminiscing. And there happened to be a song that we'd written before his departure called Vultures, and he said, ever since I've left, there's been this hole that I've not been able to fill, and it's Vultures. I want to do Vultures. I think we need to release Vultures, and it can kind of be our swan song or our Vulture song. And that was just the plan. And we ended up going to the studio and doing Vultures, and it just kind of felt normal. Yeah. And so he was like, well, let's do a couple more songs. And a couple more songs just turned into a few more albums, and here we are.
One thing I've always wanted to ask since The Black came out is, would you ever consider re-recording some of those songs from The Black with Danny?
A lot of people ask those questions, and simply put, no, because we don't love the album. It was there at a very specific time in our career where we needed it to be there, just like all of our albums were. But the thing is that people maybe don't realize is these songs are super personal to us as songwriters, as a band, as individuals. And at that time, when we wrote The Black, there was a lot of upset, a lot of anger, a lot of animosity, and just a lot of bad blood and feelings between Asking Alexandria and Danny. And so a lot of that album, lyrically and even musically, sounds the way it does because of that anger we were harboring towards Danny. And so to have him come back and be like, hey, can you sing these vocals that are about what a dickhead you are? it just doesn't feel very tasteful. It doesn't feel right. We've turned the corner as a group, and we've addressed a part of our career and we've moved on from it. That's not to say we might play the songs again one day live. I don't think Danny necessarily has anything against it, playing them live. But as of right now, we're in a super good place. We're super happy. We care about each other. And so to go back and revisit songs about a time where we weren't happy with each other and where we, quite frankly, didn't like each other, it just seems kind of counterproductive.
Certainly, I totally understand that. Ben, I can't thank you enough for taking the time.
No, of course, likewise.
And there he is. That's Ben Bruce from Asking Alexandria. Again, the new album, See What's on the Inside, came out last week, and it's gold. It's great, man. Front to back, a great, great album. But I'm Scott Penfold, here with you on the Loaded Radio podcast, and we are now joined by Loaded Radio's own Johnny Rude, who joins us live from Las Vegas, Nevada. And John, I guess, did you want to talk about this Iron Maiden thing first, or what would you want to do?
I wanted to talk about that. I know we never touched on it.
Oh, right, yeah.
But so what was the deal? I saw it. She put a picture up of her and her boyfriend with Iron Maiden, and she was given the devil horns. But it's not even devil horns anymore. It's like giving a peace sign. It's just, that's what you do in rock. I mean, people in a club do it. You'll see athletes do it. It's got nothing to do with that. It's these stupid people, Scott.
It's what I was saying on the air earlier this week. It's like 83 all over again. Where's Tipper Gore?
That's what I said to you. Like the PMRC. That's it's give me a break, man.
For those who don't know, there's a principal at a high school in St. Catharines, Ontario, but she is a fan of Iron Maiden. She's a metalhead, but a great principal at the school. The students just love her. She is so accommodating and she's just a great, great principal, and just a great strength and asset to the school, really. But some of the parents of some of these students found out that she listened to Iron Maiden, and she had posted on her personal Instagram a picture of her, putting up the devil horns with a big, picture of them.
Yeah, she was at a concert. She went she was tailgating at a concert.
That's exactly what she was doing. They saw this as satanic, and they started to, and they said, and all these parents put out a petition to get her removed or transferred. Yeah. And now the students, though, they're stepping up behind the principal. And the cool thing is when you look at both the petitions now, the one to get the principal removed as of this point, it's got about 400. The one to keep her in there has got like 12,000 at this point.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, dude. I could see if someone had these thoughts in maybe 83 when Motley Crue came out with Shout at the Devil, or 82 when Iron Maiden had Number of the Beast, Venom, all of that stuff, Motorhead. I mean, all of this stuff back then, but not now. Come on, these are adults that were kids that go and they love metal. They love the Scorpions. They love Motley Crue or Def Leppard. She happens to love Iron Maiden. Millions of people love Iron Maiden. If you don't know who Iron Maiden is now, you're living under a rock. Or here's the other side of it. It doesn't matter because no one's putting out new records in a sense. But just give me a break. She loves Maiden. She's a music fan.
It's what we were saying. It's the early 80s all over again. And I was thinking about it. Like if you think about the parents and their kids are in high school, I figure out the age of these parents. These parents would have they would have known that Iron Maiden was around. They were
That's what I'm getting at
in the 80s.
That's what I'm getting at. You know who this band is. It's not like it's some new band that's burning children.
No,
right? Come on. It's Iron Maiden. It's just they've been around forever. Nothing's wrong with them. That's the ridiculous, and that's the ignorance of people out there.
It really is. It's just gotten to the point now where some people, I guess, just have gotten so bored and have so much time in their hands.
That's right.
That they just need something to do.
That's right.
We did get our final tally for the top 13 female fronted heavy metal bands of all time.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, this has been, I guess it's been 2 months now where we've been accumulating all these votes, dude. And it's we've had thousands upon thousands of votes. So I'm going to give them to you, John. This is the first time anyone's heard them.
Yeah. I'm sitting here just as surprised as anybody else right now. So let's go. Are we starting is it the lucky 13? Is that
we're doing 13. Right. Yeah. The number 13 spot goes to, I know a favorite of yours and mine, Lita Ford.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Number 13. Thought she would have been a little higher.
I thought she would have as well, because she was very influential, not just coming from the Runaways, but I mean, her solo work.
Absolutely.
And, she, the time that she was with Tony Iommi and she was managed by Sharon Osbourne, that era. And
did that song with Ozzy, If I Close My Eyes Forever, etc. Yeah. And it still gets played. I mean, if certain areas you'll hear that song, man.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was recently covered by David Draymond and Lizzie Hale, and they did a great job of covering.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I have heard that. Maybe that's where I heard it recently, as a matter of fact. Number 13, that's pretty cool for Lita Ford.
Number 12 spot, another classic artist, Doro and Warlock.
Wow.
Doro Pesch.
Yeah, I saw Doro back in the 80s underneath the Comfort Zone.
In Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, like where the Elma Combo used to be, or is Warlock. That's the ticket. So I think it was solo Doro that I saw. It was
Doro Pesch. Yeah, I know that Sinister Minister interviewed her for Loaded Radio a couple of years ago.
That's right.
He was hanging out with her on the tour bus and stuff. She's a very cool lady, and I think a fantastic voice in metal too.
Yes, and she's still going, dude. Yeah, and she's got what's his name drumming from Britney Fox, Johnny D.
Oh, no way! Is he playing with her?
Yeah, he's the drummer for her. Yeah,
I think I think Johnny D is an unsung hero drummer.
He's a great drummer. He's solid. Awesome. Yeah, he's a great drummer. You listen to some of that stuff. Being a drummer, it's tasteful. It's perfectly placed in the stuff he's done, for sure.
Oh yeah, beautiful fills and everything. He's awesome. Number 11, John, goes to I'd say a more recent band. That's certainly within the last 10 years. Goes to Butcher Babies.
Well, there's two females in there.
Well, you got Carla and Heidi.
Carla is dating.
She's dating from Anthrax.
Charlie Benante.
Charlie, yeah. You know what? There's certainly a band that has come a long way in the last decade. I mean, starting off with the whole electric tape over the nipples kind of thing.
Right. They were like an independent kind of just look at me kind of band. Like a couple of cool chicks up front, or good looking chicks, and then you've got a metal band backing you. But then it got taken kind of seriously. And hey, I know that. I know exactly what that's about. Starting as a bit of a kind of campy thing and then developing it into something that's real. Yeah, I agree. That's what they've done.
Yeah, they're a great metalcore band. I've been a big fan of them since the Goliath release. I see them doing extremely well in the years to come. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, the number 10 spot went to a fellow runaway, Joan Jett.
Wow.
I thought she would have been higher personally. I mean, I know some people consider Joan Jett a one-hit wonder. I don't.
Oh, no, dude. No. I think, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. She's transcended from the Runaways to a solo career. And now all her tunes, I mean, if you listen to Monday Night Football, they've taken I Hate Myself for Loving You. They've used it in the NFL theme. No, she's historic, I would say, Joan Jett, because she was the most successful out of the Runaways, for sure. I did see her at a police picnic back in maybe 81 or 82 at the CNE, and she got pelted because she was rock and they wanted to hear new wave. Like, it was the English Beat, the Police, Talking Heads, and they stuck her in there. And yeah, she just got pelted with rotten food, man. I mean, it was crazy.
She encompasses the attitude, and she's a great player and a great front woman. I think she's awesome. Legendary for sure, man. Like,
absolutely.
Thought she'd be a bit higher up, but hey,
Me
we
too.
didn't vote. This is all the listeners and everybody else. But getting into number 9, though, number 9 went to a great Italian band, Lacuna Coil.
Okay.
Who are, I love Lacuna Coil. How can you not? They're from Milan. They've been around since 94. 2 name changes, of course. They were known previously as Sleep of Right, and then they became Ethereal. And then, of course, Lacuna Coil. I mean, to call them symphonic metal, to call them just the anthemic, even sort of metal is awesome. And Christina Scabbia, who's a front woman for the band, of course, just a incredible front woman, a power front woman. And when it comes to, female fronted bands, Lacuna Coil certainly belong in this list, you know.
Very.
The number 8 spot went to the band Epica, who Dutch symphonic metal band as well. I spoke with Mark Jansen recently. He was on the podcast, this very podcast,
right,
a couple of months ago. Very gothic symphonic metal, very awesome. I mean, if you're into symphonic metal, they're a band that you love, you know.
Absolutely.
Number 7 spot went to In This Moment, John.
Oh, there you go. Another Vegas resident. So actually, LA, Vegas, I'd say in this moment.
LA, I think LA, Hollywood sort of thing. Certainly have made, I guess, probably a second home in Nevada, possibly.
They do all their stuff up at the Hideout Studios here, and I've recorded up there, and she was hanging around. We were actually thinking about getting her to sing on, you know, a backing track or something with us. But very cool band. I've seen them a few times. Yeah, she's cool, dude, and great music, man.
Number 6 goes to Within Temptation. Now these guys, again, more Dutch symphonic metal. I mean, just very, I think we got a lot of European votes personally.
I think so. I think there's a lot of people from over in Europe that are voting for the symphonic metal, which is cool, man. Hey.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
Sharon Denadel is a great frontwoman as well, guitarist, Robert Westerholt as well. Their 5th studio album, The Unforgiving, which came out in 2011, was just a fantastic effort by them. I remember getting that. And they're still going. They're still going strong too. So Within Temptation at number 5. Number 4, now this is getting down to the real, when we're getting to the top.
Well, this is the sprint for the last 40 yards here, if you're going for the gold.
That's right, buddy, going for the gold. Number 4 goes to Evanescence.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
You know, Little Rock, Arkansas, as well. Amy Lee, another woman who has been on this very podcast. She's appeared. Jules and I interviewed her backstage at the Hummingbird Center, John.
Right on.
And she was a very cool woman, just all pro, an incredible songwriter. I think one of the greatest voices there too.
Oh yeah, I remember when
Lee, you know. So
yeah, I remember when they came on the scene. It's like everyone was like, "Wow!" Again, very gothy, rocky. It fit a lot of different genres there. But I remember that, and I went, "Wow, this girl can sing, man."
Yeah. Here we go. The top 3 now. Number 3 goes to Arch Enemy, John.
Okay. Yeah. So a wicked band too, man.
Yeah. Swedish melodic death metal.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, these guys, they've had some lineup changes, of course. I mean, especially when it comes to the singer, they have a Canadian singer now out of Montreal, in Alyssa White-Glutz. The rest of the band from Europe, essentially. I mean, they're kind of from all over the world, man. But they really established themselves with their former vocalist, Angela Gassau, who I think you were familiar with as well. Great frontwoman. The first real frontwoman to bring in gutturals. You know what I mean? Guttural vocals.
Did we ever see them maybe somewhere like at the docks on one of those festival shows?
I think you and I went and saw them when Angela was still singing for them.
Yeah, I think so.
I remember the first time seeing Angela Gassau. I mean, not to take away from Alyssa White-Glutz, but just seeing a woman do extreme guttural vocals in a metal band was something completely new, and it was amazing.
It's cool. Yeah, I think that's cool, man. It's it's an equal playing field out there. Just if you can do it, you can do it. Male, female, it's all good.
Absolutely. And of course, like I was saying, Alyssa White-Glutz is a great Canadian vocalist. She used to sing with the Agonist, and she is a phenomenal frontwoman, I think. And I think she's still dating Doyle from Misfits.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
They're still together.
Okay.
So, there's a pair for you. Okay. The top 2. Number 2, John, you would probably agree with me on this one. Hailstorm.
A little Lizzie Hale.
Lizzie Hale, man.
Now, Lizzie, that's a family affair band.
It is. It's Lizzie and her brother, RJ. And then, of course, guitarist Joe Hottinger and bassist Josh Smith. Joe and Lizzie are like a couple. Mm-hmm. And RJ is her brother. And then you got Josh Smith in there on bass. Yeah, you and I have been into them since 2009.
Since they came out, since they first started. We thought, hey, this has got some good potential here. It's kind of like discovering a band. And I think right when they came out, we started playing them. Well, that's cool. Again, the reason I would say number 2, if you go back to say like Lita Ford or Joan Jett, it's more current. And so people are listening to current stuff. And that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I mean, Lizzie Hale, God, what a great voice. I mean, she's worked with everybody in hard rock and metal these days. The new single, Back from the Dead, I think is just insanely awesome. And you know what? I don't, have you ever heard Lizzie Hale's cover that she does with Stone Sour of Gimme Shelter, but the Stones classic? It's insane, man.
Yeah, she's doing all the cool vocals that they had back with Mick and Keith.
Yeah, well, it was Mary Clayton. She was a gospel singer. She was the original one to sing on the track, and she does a great job, man. She just nails it. You know,
that's cool. Yeah. But
the number one spot goes to Nightwish.
Wow.
Nightwish. Wow. Finnish symphonic metal. Now, again, we're going to go back to, I think we had a big European quotient in our voting, John.
I think you're correct on that one. I mean, killer vocalist, absolutely. But to me, for number one.
You know why? Because their fan base is just so rabid and just so loyal. They're one of those bands that, I mean, there are some bands out there that have great fan bases. People love them, but they're one of those bands that people are excruciatingly loyal to them. You know what I mean? Right. Again, more symphonic metal. They're Finnish. They're from Kitty, Finland, formed in 1996. So they've been around a long time. They've got the heritage there. And former lead singer Tarja Tarnunen, who was really brought the band to the forefront, and now currently Floor Jansen, just a great front woman. I think an awesome voice. A lot of symphonic metal in this list.
Wow.
I mean, you know what, John? I'm surprised that there's a few bands that I'm surprised didn't make it in there. Like I thought Lee Aaron would have gotten in there somewhere. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just going to say one name, and I think you'll agree with this because you were saying the top female vocalists in hard rock and metal. Okay, if we would have gone rock and roll, I again, it's a fine line here when I bring this voice up because she's phenomenal. Is Ann Wilson?
Yeah, Ann Wilson's great, dude.
Oh, yeah. I mean that's the start of it in a sense for if you can sing like that, man, you can sing anything.
But you know what?
But again.
I'm surprised Heart didn't get more votes, actually, to be honest with you. I really thought it would have had more. I thought the Runaways would have, but the Runaways really didn't. Some other notable bands in there, Spirit Box, a new band who I love, Sumo Psycho, friends of ours who are great. They were in there. They got a few votes. They're doing quite well for themselves now. There's a lot of great female-fronted bands. And
I'm really surprised, Poison didn't get in there.
Right, Michaels. Yeah, what a great chick front.
All right. Well, back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, of course, right. But yeah, there you go, though, John. That's the top 13 female-fronted heavy metal bands as voted by the Loaded Radio listeners, John. A lot of European listeners.
That's very, very cool. I'm glad people chimed in, man. That's surprising to me. I love this. The difference that, say, North America, or you're saying if it's European, I just love that. I don't know how to say this. It's cool to see the diversity. That's the word I'm looking for in music. And again, I guess the listeners have spoken.
As always, don't forget you can email us, Scott or Johnny at loadedradio.com, and go to loadedradio.com constantly to get your hard rock and metal news constantly updated. Yep, as well the podcasts and tons more. It's a massive site. And as well, download the Loaded Radio app. It's free. Get it where you get your apps or at loadedradio.com. All right? We'll talk to you again next week for a special Halloween edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. Talk to you then.
Loaded Radio.